Hey everybody, GravyTrain here with another episode of GravyTraining. Today this video is going to be a little longer than some of the other ones because we've got a lot to cover. So I'm going to jump right into it. This is episode 14 and we are covering all of the Barbarians. I figured that it was kind of pointless to talk about each individual Barbarian because they synergize so completely together. So yeah, we'll jump right into it. We'll start with Abigail. I rune Abigail. I've got a couple of healer runes for the attack, the defense, and then the end of turn healing. My Abigail is very tanky. I like the tank Abigail. So I've got the tank rune for defense, health, a defense buff. I have a guardian rune, so defense, or defense damage reduction, defense, and defense buff, and then a bulwark for defense, health, and damage reduction. That takes her stats to, and actually now that that other rune has come out that has more defense, I may put that on her, but we'll see. So she has a defense of almost 25-5. So that's extremely good, especially when she's on a team with Drak, because between this and the Barbarian shield, she becomes very, very difficult to kill. I mean, it can be done, but obviously it's not a trivial thing. And she's got almost 50% crit. The attack is so-so, but we're not focusing on that with her, so... her abilities. So she has, in addition to her basic attack, which she does have an epic, so we'll talk about that real quick first. The epic provides 30% defense, 20% max health, 20% attack, and the effect is there's a 30% chance to attack up to 3 enemies for 1.5 times damage, daze, and burn. So, coming back to her abilities then, her basic attack has a chance to trigger that. The Furious Charge, this is probably her most well-known ability, is where she does that, like, roar, and charges in at the enemy. She provides a 94% attack buff for the team, and does a melee physical attack for basically 4,100 damage, and adds rage to all allies. And rage is a barbarian concept. I will, actually I should have gone back and gone over this to begin with, but I'll fix that as we go. So rage, actually no, we'll go through this first, sorry. So first she has Frenzy, which is an increased crit chance. And that's why it's an 11% there. Not really a useful thing. But rage is a trait that's common to all barbarians, and they gain rage when hit by enemies. Rage modifies abilities, stacks up to 5 times, resets each encounter, and can't be copied or stolen. It can be purged. So it's going to modify abilities in different ways, and there's going to be bonuses depending on which barbarians you bring, and particular combinations from each other. Abigail's is on on any crit she buffs her attack, she buffs her attack on any crit. She's fast, and then her ability for rage is all barbarian allies gain defense buff whenever they gain rage. So the more rage they get, the stronger their defense buff becomes. So that makes her pretty tough, like right out of the gate. So Furious Charge, as I was saying, it adds rage to all barbarian allies. I think it's just 1. Dogs of War. So this is a kind of a unique situation because this pairs up with Cry Havoc, which is Balog's ability. And it comes from... I think it was a famous speech. Cry Havoc and let loose the Dogs of War. I'm probably misquoting it slightly, but that's effectively it. So that's what this is based off of. So she does a melee physical attack on a random enemy twice for 2650 damage. Rage adds ally attacks on random enemies twice. And at 4 stacks of rage, triggers Cry Havoc if on a team with Balog. So the Dogs of War, if she's got 4 stacks, it's going to make Balog do his attack, his shout attack, which we'll get to in a minute. And finally, Rage Cage. This is a pretty devastating attack, especially because if she's got a bunch of rage, it's pretty powerful. So a melee physical attack on a target and a random enemy for 2045 base damage. Rage adds additional attacks on random targets. So this can turn easily into 7 attacks. And plus chances for basic attacks and everything else. It can get silly. So yeah, that is Abigail. We'll go to Drak. Actually, we'll go to Balog next since we kind of talked about him. So Balog, I rune for extra attacks. Lots of extra attacks. So he's got a warrior rune, a warrior rune with defense, attack, chance to add an extra basic attack. The weird thing about this one too is that this is a defensive rune for red. It's one of the only ones that I've seen that like leads and has 2 defense stats above the attack stat. And then I put a shield piercing rune because he is primarily going to be doing revenge attacks or follow-up attacks and things like that. So shield, a lot of his stuff is basic attacks, and it also works with splash damage. So his chance to pierce shields is going to be pretty high. And a hero rune for more defense to kind of round things out. So his stats, about 9,400 attack, about 7,400 defense. Yeah, I mean he's set up mostly for those extra attacks. You can also go 2 other ways to rune him. You can go very heavy, like all out attack, so that his shout does massive damage. Like I've seen it wipe whole teams. And then any of his other stuff, like any of the attacks that he triggers with Abigail and things like that, all just becomes really nasty. The other one is you can go all defensive and just totally tank him out. So that is the deal with Balog. Or at least his stats, or the runing, sorry. Alright, so he is armored, takes less damage from physical attacks. He generates rage. Barbarian Assault. Allied barbarians deal 20% extra damage for each stack of rage. Obviously that means they can get up to 100% extra damage, which means if he's heavily focused on attack, like over 10,000, he'll get basically double his attack power. Mute, so when on a team with Drak, basic attacks have a chance to silence enemies. So silencing enemies is always good because it stops them from using their abilities. Alright, so his basic attack, he does not have an epic. Cry Havoc. This is what he is absolutely the most known for. It's a thunderous ranged spirit attack on all enemies for 1820 basic damage with a chance to silence, and then provokes 1 target. So there's a number of things happening here. And Rage adds 10% more damage per stack, and it triggers Dogs of War if on a team with Abigail. So there's about 5 different things going on here. First is just the damage, which it can get pretty good when you start getting buffs and things like that on him. Especially when he has 5 rage and has 100% more damage, so that's actually going to end up being like double. And then rage adds 10% more damage, so that's going to be up to 50% more damage, so he can be at 150% extra damage. With a chance to silence, so silence we've already talked about. Silence is great. Stops enemies from using their specials. And provokes one target. And basically that means at random, if you're attacking 4 people, one of them is going to be provoked. And what provoke does is it's basically like a single turn taunt. That person has to attack the provoked target. Even above, if there were other enemies taunting, it's this provoke takes priority. And then finally, if on a team with Abigail, it triggers Dogs of War. So cry havoc and set loose the Dogs of War is kind of the theme here. And that's the one that we were just talking about before on Abigail. Rage Heart, basically he's taunt, boosts his max health, starts powered, so he can technically taunt right away. And Bull Rush. Bull Rush is his strongest attack, so it's a melee physical attack for 35-10 base damage and lowers their energy. So this will actually reduce the energy of enemies for each attack. And Rage adds additional attacks on random enemies. I've watched Bull Rush just wipe my team. Absolutely just clean through it. Bull Rush is definitely a strong ability. It's a very good ability. So that is Balog. And we're halfway through here. I'm going to go kind of quickly through these. Drak is the kind of keystone for the Barbarian team. So I also have, he's got his regular skin and the slasher skin. The slasher skin, when I get into his abilities, I'll explain what that is. He's ruined with warrior runes because he does like a frenzy of attacks. I've got an unbreakable heart on him. Got a yellow warrior rune and a purple warrior rune. So he has an 80% chance for extra attacks, which serves him really well. You can rune him heavily for offense, you can rune him heavily for defense. He's kind of like Balog is in that regard. You can rune them both in all the same ways. So he ends up with about just under 8,000 attack and just under 11,000 defense. 33% crit chance. So he's armored, takes less damage from physical attacks. He has Rage, which we talked about. You Dare Challenge Me. Immune to Taunt and Provoke, and does boosted damage versus taunting enemies. Rage Revenge, so he has a chance to revenge attacks. Gains a number of hits per stack of Rage. This gets disgusting, because obviously he can get up to 5 hits with Rage, and then that also triggers that each one of those attacks triggers a chance for an extra attack. Indomitable Will, this is what really makes Barbarians dangerous. Well, this and the other one here. So all Barbarian allies gain 15% damage reduction per stack of Rage, which means you're looking at up to a 60% damage reduction when you're paired with Abby, who's also doing a defense buff. It's pretty hardcore. Unbridled Rage. Allied Barbarians are immune to fear, and if they would die, ignores death for 1 turn. Unbridled Rage only happens once per dungeon. So this is the ability that lets Barbarians live until the next round. They can take unlimited damage and not die until the next turn starts, and then any damage they take will destroy them. And then this is actually the ability from the skin. You'll only get this if you have the slasher skin. And it's Undying Fury, and damage increases and can't be healed when below 13 health. So 13 because the slasher, Friday the 13th, blah blah blah. But yeah, so he's going to do more damage, but he can't be healed when he's below 13 health. Alright, his abilities. Basic attack. So basic melee attack doing 1527 base damage. Rage adds additional strikes on random targets. So this is where, once again, you can have up to 6 attacks. And each one of them may spawn another basic attack. So that's why you see Drak just going crazy, attacking like all day long. Pillage. It's a melee physical attack for 3400 basically base damage. And all allies attack random enemies with a chance to steal buffs on hit. Rage increases the number of buffs stolen. So this will be where you'll see like your taunt will get stolen, or your guardian rune buff will get stolen and stuff like that. Really good ability because it's going to trigger extra attacks for him, and then anybody else, like in this case Balog, would fire off an attack, get a bunch of extra attacks. Really good ability. Wounding Cleave, also helpful. It's an armor-piercing melee physical attack on target enemy for 1832 base damage with a chance to wound. And what wound is going to do is it's going to provide damage over time, and it's going to stop healing. So until the wound goes away, you're not going to heal. Rage adds additional hits on random enemies with a chance to wound. So you're seeing the theme here is that all of his abilities give him chances to do extra attacks based on his level of rage. So you want him to be able to be potentially swinging as much as possible. And then finally, challenge, and this one is kind of Challenges target enemy attacks with a basic attack. And then this hero attacks for 3665 base damage, plus the damage dealt by the enemy attack. So you force them into a basic attack against you, you take the damage dealt, and it gets added on to the damage that you do. And Rage adds 20% more damage per stack. So this can get pretty high when you're at high Rage, and generally by the time this becomes free, you will be. And last but not least, you won't use Ignace as much, but Ignace has actually got some pretty cool abilities as well. I have him runed for attack, extra attacks with attack, more extra attacks with defense, and more extra attacks here. The reason is that he will actually, anytime somebody does damage to a hero that has burning on them, he's going to do a follow-up attack. And I will show you why that is such a big deal. So Ignace has Rage, which all barbarians do. Maniacal. So he will actually attack an enemy. I guess it's not anytime somebody hits somebody with a burn debuff, but it will attack an enemy anytime a burn debuff is applied to them. And that is not only his attacks, but you'll see here there's other ways that he causes burning to be applied. Firepower, so he is fire immune, and fire allies, in this case you're looking at Abigail, would deal increased damage to burning targets, which is good. He is mystical, so he does boosted damage versus tanks and slow targets. And then this one is Burning Mad. Allied barbarians gain rage when dealing damage to burned targets, which ideally is going to be everybody. His abilities, his wand does not have an epic, so it's just a basic attack. Fire Nova. Fire Nova is a good ability. It does a ranged fire attack on all enemies for 2108 base damage. Allies gain a chance to burn on basic attacks for 3 turns. So you can see where that buff is going to get applied a bunch. And Rage adds additional chance to burn. So it basically increases the burn chance. Heist is a good ability. So it's a ranged spirit attack, so you're not going to be able to use it against Solaris. Ranged spirit attack for 2433 base damage that drains 1 energy, which is a big deal. steals all buffs and adds them to the caster, and then Rage adds additional energy to allies. So all in all, a very strong ability. And then Incinerate is a ranged fire attack on target enemy for 32-44 base damage with a chance to burn. Rage adds 20% more damage per stack. If the target dies, the corpse is removed. I mean, all around, that's just a good single target ability. So that is the team. I am actually going to run them together in PvP, just so you can kind of see them all. And this is probably going to be bad for me, but I will do it anyways. So I'm going to start with Abigail. I'm going to follow with Balog. Actually, I can just do filter by family and choose Barbarian, and then everybody's right here. Oops. Yeah, I probably want him to go, and then Ignace to go, and then Drak. So basically, he can apply that burn debuff pretty early. And actually, I'm going to put him before Balog, so that he gets that out there early. Now, there's also a strategy to run like Abigail and Drak with Emily and Valken that was pretty strong in the meta for a while. Jin coming in kind of reduced that some, but so they're silenced, which isn't a huge deal for these guys. And it is, and it isn't. The freeze is going to be more. That's the biggest vulnerability that Barbarians have. And going up against a Valken team that sometimes you won't end up getting into. So, like I said, I don't edit out the losses. This is probably going to be a loss. I wouldn't typically run this team all the time. I would probably sub out Ignace for Agna or Shade. Shade is what you'll see a lot. And then she's dead, yeah. So, I mean, this was just an absolute clobbering. So we'll try another round. I said I'm not advocating using this team. This is just kind of how you'll see them. So I should be okay with this team. Should be. And you can see here, this is where he can't have his health go below 1. I want to take Valken out as quickly as I can. Not quickly enough. Okay, so here is Cry Havoc, and then it triggers Dogs of War. Yeah, that hurt. Not the strongest team ever. This used to be the meta. What I would probably do right now is something more along the lines of Abigail, Valken, Emily, Drak. And run just a partial Barb team. Abigail has Taunt. And she's the one that's ruined heavily for defense. That always happens against Dark Tusk. Here I just want to lock him down, so I'm fine with using that ability first. I don't currently have Festive Runes on Valken, because he's mostly on my defense right now. Alright. Gotta focus on taking out that way. Okay. Let's get rid of debuffs. And let's focus on Lily. There we go. So yeah, this team is definitely stronger. Another option would be just something like maybe Drak here and Jin. There we go. Or Agnon is another good choice here. But Jin is kind of makes any team better, so. Oh, and he's got Jin too, so I tend to ignore Jin now. Like, I just deal with the silence. I don't try to counter it unless I've got, like, Dagrin or something like that. Oh, you're kidding. Dodgy, Theron is dodgy. What the hell? Alright, so now I don't want them to use their abilities, so I'm going to silence this round. And I want to finish off Theron, because him being there is not so good. Next biggest threat is probably Hagram, once he can be using his abilities. And yeah, let's shield piercing, get rid of Valken. Yeah, that's what I was wanting to stop. Let's finish off Jin, and now Hagram. So that's a couple of offensive teams. Their barbs are probably better used on offense than on defense, just because when you can prepare for Barbarians, you can take all the right stuff along with you. So yeah, I mean, they're better as an accent to other teams right now. Yeah, I was actually using Ignace while using demon teams, for example, like using Zulk and Nitpick and Ignace and like Jin or somebody like that. Works really well as well. So that's it. I know this video is a little longer. Thanks for watching. Follow me on Twitter, Gravy_training. If you're new, subscribe so you can see more of the videos, know when I release stuff. I'll also let you know on Twitter. And yeah, thumbs up is appreciated. Throw your comments, questions, anything else down there, or tweet me on Twitter, and I will try to get back to you. I try to read everything and respond, so don't be afraid to comment, ask questions, anything else. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.